Hi everybody, Mike Paradies and Jon Rehorst with Automotive Process Champions. And this is that really important video that we were talking about. So please, if you watch anything, this is the really important one. And we had the opportunity to recently to work with a couple of really sharp guys who have brought out a tool called SingleThread. Patrick Southward and Will Mapes, really sharp car guys. And that's the neat thing about it. It was car guys that brought out a technology product. We had this opportunity about 10 days ago to bring it to a store of ours that we've had a lot of success with. And in fact, an interesting story happened early on, just as we were launching the product. Jon, why don't you tell us what happened?
You know, Mike and I had an opportunity to work with Will and Patrick installing SingleThread over at Dorsch Ford up in Green Bay. And Mike and I have known Mike Dorsch going back to when we first launched the store as Half a Car Catalyst back in the mid-90s. And Mike's a pretty level-headed guy, and he's very, it takes a lot to impress him. Well, after the first day of launching it, we pulled Mike into the room, into the service manager's office, and we were reviewing the dashboard and talking about some of the things that they can hold their service advisors accountable for. And we were actually watching live time a conversation taking place between a service advisor and a customer. And what prompted it is that any time a customer sends an email or text message, immediately there's a red bell that appears on the screen that tells us that there's an unanswered message. Well, we clicked on it, and the service advisor quickly engaged the customer. And it was hilarious because Mike was watching everything that was being said, and it was almost like his first day or something. I mean, it was just, he was so impressed by being able to pay attention to it. But the customer started off the conversation with, I can't talk right now, I'm in a meeting. And they exchanged information over the course of the next minute that resulted in the customer getting some additional work done on their vehicle, all right, without that customer ever leaving the meeting or without the service advisor actually being at the desk. See, the part that was really funny is that Mike was so excited, he said, "Where's Chad?" And he stands up and he looks out there, he goes, "Chad's not even at his desk." And I said, "Well, he's probably using the remote function." So, you know, what Mike and I would like to talk to everybody about today, I mean, you hear the word disruptive technology out there, and there hasn't been a lot that we've seen over the course of the last few years in the car business. It's really been anything different. You know, we often talk about when we put a training program together, we think that it should be measurable, manageable. The results need to be attainable, and then we need to hold people accountable for what we ask them to do. And that's one of the things that SingleThread has really impressed us with. It really hits on all four of those cylinders really, really hard. You know, we launched it, I think it was the 14th, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, 14th we launched it. And in that time, there have been 2,611 text messages exchanged between the customers and the service advisors over at Dorsch Ford. Now, in my opinion, that's crazy. Because if you really put the time that it would take to have that type of conversation and leaving messages and calling customers back, or even if you were actually just text messaging off a cell phone, all right, how long would it take to manage something like that, and how easy would it be on a 3x5 screen? So let's talk a little bit about what SingleThread can do. All right, SingleThread is a program that's integrated with your DMS that allows us to communicate with our customers over the course of the day. All right, so when somebody comes in, you know, we like to, when we do our training, we still use a lot of the Half a Car principles, even though Half a Car was primarily a front-end training program. A lot of the same principles apply to the back end. You know, one of Mike's favorite is
Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you're doing, and then tell them what you did.
Yeah.
And we have an example of that when a customer comes in to check into service. The service advisor will immediately go into a safety inspection. But the first thing they do is they tell them what they're going to do. They're going to do a safety inspection, and we're going to check your wipers and your lights and your marker lights and your tire depth. And then they do it, and as they're doing it, they tell them what they're going to do, and then they give them, the customers, the results. They tell them what they did. And this is a real quick little way of checking in the customer, but the best way to do it is not to ask them, but to actually tell them what you're going to do, tell them what you're doing, and then tell them what you did. we try to incorporate this same philosophy into this communication skill with the single thread.
Yeah, we know that if we ask somebody, hey, would you like to text? People get a little leery about it because they're afraid they're going to get a ton of advertising. This is not an advertising program. All right, this is a program that allows us to take care of some of the issues that we have in the back end of the auto industry. There's not really any way that we can talk about all the benefits and keep this video at the length that we want to. So what we're going to do is hit on a couple of them today, all right, and then we'll be able to, over the course of the next couple of weeks, talk about some of the other benefits. So one of the first things we like to talk about is the fact that 90% of the time that there's a fallout in CSI, if you were to really drill down, the biggest issue was lack of communication. Something was said incorrectly to a customer, or something was misunderstood. A customer, there was the impression that maybe they approved something and they didn't approve it. But, even though we have cell phones, even though we have smartphones, even though we have texting capability, a lot of times things are dropped off because it's not contained in one area. One of the things that SingleThread does is because it's integrated with your DMS, all right, the first thing that happens when we put a cell phone number in the identified field in your provider's, your DMS provider's screen, it immediately sends a text message to your customer. And it tells them that if they type back start, all right, that's the best way for us to communicate. Now we have a script for that. We don't really need to get into it right now, but the results in the first 10 days at Dorsch Ford with a bunch of people, some of which were skeptics, all right, we're getting 66 to 75% of our customers on any given day to participate in the communication line. Now, what does that mean? So we're going to talk about the first thing that we issue that we solve. Because we work at a number of Ford dealerships in the Milwaukee area, we occasionally get an opportunity to see the viewpoint scores that come back from Ford Motor Company. And one of the scores that just smacks you in the face is the satisfaction level that people have with status updates. The last report, the aggregate report we saw from the Milwaukee area said that 26% of our customers felt that they were being given status updates in an adequate fashion. 26%. 26% of the people felt that they were finding out things in a timely manner. Now, these are people that are sitting in waiters. There are people that are at work. There are people at home. All right. Now, do we really think that our service advisors go to work every day and say, hey, I wonder if I can figure out a new way to ignore somebody today? Or do you think that maybe what happens is that they're dealing with anywhere from 17 to 20 customers on a daily basis, and they have an issue getting back to people in a timely manner? One of the things that SingleThread does is it gives us a manageable screen. Every customer that signs in, we're able to communicate with them. And to be honest with you, I don't care if they're sitting in the waiting area. Honestly, I don't care if they're sitting on the chair next to my desk. I want a recorded message sent to them each and every time something happens to their vehicle. So we can let them know, hey, your vehicle's going in for service right now. Hey, your vehicle should be done in about an hour. Hey, by the way, Mike, when we were taking a look at your vehicle, we noticed that your brakes were under 2 millimeters, and we ought to address that this time in order to keep your vehicle safe and maintained. We can communicate with a customer at a stroke of a key, quickly and exactly in a very concise manner, all right, and get it to them immediately, as opposed to exchanging voicemail messages, which in the long run really makes it difficult for us to manage the back end, making sure that we're getting vehicles in there, taking cars down off of lifts, putting other cars up. If we can get a hold of our customer and get an approval right away, think about what that would do to your efficiency in the back end. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about how we can get every MPI sent to the customer, how we can take pictures and show them what needs to be done to their vehicle. All right. So if you're one of the dealerships that think this might be something that you'd be interested in seeing, no pressure, just give us a call. We'll set up a demonstration for you. All right, Mike's going to put the numbers up here because he's the guy with the Chiron graphics. All right, give us a call, send us an email. We'll make sure that we set you up. Everybody have a great week and have a wonderful 4th of July.
Thanks a lot.